Did you know that roughly 80% of leaders feel unprepared in their roles? Now the question is, are you one of them? Now in this video, we're going to unlock the secrets in order for you to be an effective leader. I'm going to talk about 5 key things that can help you really stand out. Now I have used some of these skills in order to be an effective leader, both in board level positions, contracting positions, and engagements. Now of course, stay till the end and you'll get a bonus which talks about a game-changing technique that will really help you stand out. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Michael Tabirade, leadership and performance coach. And in today's video, I'm going to be talking about how you can be an effective leader. What are the fundamentals of essential leadership? Whether you're listening to this via podcast or watching this via the video, stay tuned. And this is really for the person who's either a seasoned leader or someone who's really getting started in a game. So I'm excited to talk about these different steps with you. Now, over the years, I've been able to put together different factors that enable you to be an effective leader. I want to talk through these different factors. The first one being audacious authenticity. What does this really mean? Audacious authenticity is the ability to be yourself in most situations. It is really connecting to your sense of deeper values, i.e. the things that you deem as important. Now, if we break this down, authenticity is essentially these 4 different things. The first thing is authentic living. This is the ability to be yourself. This is the ability to lean into your core values. There are different types of values, ends values and means values, but these core ones are the ones that hardly change throughout your life, or for at least about 20 or 25 years. They stay with you. It helps you make decisions in your life, and those decisions determine your destination and your destiny, so to speak. And so when you are doing authentic living, you can see this day to day, okay? You make decisions based on those core values. Now, of course, values don't necessarily mean you're right. They just feel like the right thing to do, or should I say they're intuitive based on the makeup of you as a person. The second thing is ensuring that you don't self-alienate. What does this mean? This means that you're comfortable in your skin. You really value yourself. You're not one of those people who are not sure about themselves and a bit sheepish here and there, X, Y, and Z. You are confident about your abilities. You're confident about who you are as a person. And so self-alienation means that you don't have those different things, which means you can't be yourself. The third thing is more centered around, do you get influenced externally? Do you do what you want to do, or do you get swayed? That's essentially what it is. Think about yourself within a workspace, or whether it's in a family setting. If you're a father or a mother, okay, let's say you're a father, for example, your small daughter may be like, oh, daddy, can we do this? Can we do that? X, Y, and Z. You get swayed, of course, okay? That's the person you deeply love. But in many situations, as leaders, we're called to be individuals who can make decisions on our own accord. Whether that's based on intuition, whether that's based on experience, whether that's based on data, whatever it's based on, you don't get easily influenced. Now, the fourth factor is all centered around this whole idea of self-monitoring. And there is high self-monitoring and low self-monitoring. What is that? Self-monitoring is your ability to essentially manage yourself in different social settings. Now, of course, they say that if you have low self-monitoring, i.e. you don't really manage yourself in social situations, then you're unruly, you're hard to work with. And this is where you get these rebel individuals, or who seem like rebels, who may be seen as misunderstood, who lack certain sort of like skills, who are outcast, which is a bit of a shame. And that's what ends up happening if you don't have a certain level of self-monitoring. The high end of it, the high self-monitoring, is where you're overdoing it and it comes across as fake and ingenuous. So really, you don't want to be on that level because people are not going to trust you. People are not going to build rapport. People are not going to want to be vulnerable with you. And that's where you'll have more transactional conversations as opposed to transformational conversations. And so you want to be in a happy medium where you're still doing things based on your core values, i.e. you're understanding the social norms and patterns and things that happen in our culture. This is known as the chrono system of our life, so to speak. And so essentially that's what audacious authenticity is about, is leaning into those different things. Now, of course, put this into practice. This is essentially about making sure that you develop self-awareness, okay? And This self-awareness helps to change your behavior, so to speak, because if you have information to understand how you can change, then your behavior is more likely to change. So behavior is a good measure of those different things. The second thing is centered around leaning into your values, because this is based on how you make decisions. Think about the decisions that you're making and think to yourself, does this lean into the core self? And the final thing is practicing ethical leadership. And what this really means is that you have the ability to show empathy and you understand that people have their own lives. And so you're able to give them space to express themselves, but also cater to their needs. You act as a coach towards them. And so putting this all together, you have a really strong sense of audacious authenticity. The next thing is all centered around crystal clarity. Now, clarity is fundamental because if you don't have a clear message, if you don't clearly communicate, people are going to get frustrated and confused. And so here are some common things that you need to aim to improve in order to show clarity in your communication. You need to have a clear vision. That vision is essentially the future you would like to embody or realize, so to speak. So it's the future state. Mission. Who are you saying you are as a people collectively? Values. What behaviors would you like to exude, express, essentially what you say is important to you? And there's a difference between, I was talking to a psychologist one time when I went to one of these Institute of Leadership events. I'm a trustee for one of them. And he was saying he doesn't believe in values from an organizational standpoint, but he does believe in behaviors. Your behaviors will show you exactly what you truly believe in. And so we move into not just values, but into this whole space of your strategic plan. What does that look like? Strategy is your approach. Plan is your step-by-step. So what is the approach you're going to take in order to deliver against your vision and your mission, who you say you are, so to speak? Then you have your delivery approach. This is, again, the way you do things, so to speak, very in line to the whole strategic planning. Following on from that, you also have roles and responsibilities, okay? It's very important that people are clear about what they are called to do. What does that look like specifically? When should they do certain things? Why should they do certain things? How should they do certain things? What should they be doing? Okay, they call it 4 bombs and a bench. The bombs are the W's and the bench is the H, the how. And finally, you also need clear governance. How do people escalate risks and issues? How do they report in to different lines? Who is accountable for what at what level? There is going to be some sort of, hierarchy to this to some degree. Some people don't like that term hierarchy, but there is going to be some level of hierarchy, so to speak. And so thinking about this stuff, when you apply it, it's about making sure that you have some sort of structure and you have questions that you are answering that enables you to clearly and succinctly answer these different things. And thereby, once you've done that, you're in a position where people can check this stuff to check for its coherence. Is your vision inspiring? Is it measurable? Is it relatable, so to speak? Are your values really embodying what is important to the organization, so to speak? Are the roles and responsibilities clear? These are all things that need to be borne in mind. So when thinking about crystal clarity, think about those different things. And of course, as the leader, when you are audaciously authentic, you can get into a space where you can more clearly see what needs to be done. The next thing is centered around communication, what I call considered communication. And effectively what this looks at is, do you have good EQ skills? Essentially, emotional intelligence, which was popularized by Daniel Goleman, but not originating from him, essentially talks about this whole idea of self-awareness. Okay, so really, are you cognizant of the things that are happening around you, whether that's outside of you or internally? Self-management, so based on that information, how do you manage that information? How do you use the information to change your behavior and use your emotions to give you information to change your result? Okay, so let's say, for example, if you're aware that you're feeling angry, how do you now use that information to transition and lean into your values, so to speak? So you are acting in the highest version of yourself, or you're being a leader that lives by example, as opposed to someone who leans into their frustration and anger. Let's be real. Once it hits a certain threshold emotionally, it's kind of like water. Once it goes past a certain level, it's going to flood everything. And so, yeah, you have to ride the wave sometimes. But if you can prevent that from happening, what are you doing to manage that? So that's what self-management's around. Then there's also this idea around motivation. So, you know, there's been studies done within the whole positive psychology space that those who exude more positive emotions are more likely going to be resilient and more likely going to have a high degree of emotional intelligence because they're doing some of that management stuff internally, so to speak. Now, of course, it can't be toxic positivity where everything's so happy and and none of that stuff. Like, there needs to be a maturity about it. Then we have social awareness, which is really centered around how do you recognize what other people are doing? What are the different nuances that you recognize in order for you to understand how to move into the space of social management? Now, of course, social management is really centered around things like leadership and persuasion and influence and negotiation and conflict management. All these different things are really creating a model that helps us understand how we are intelligent with utilizing and understanding emotions. So remember, like, when moving into the space of considered communication, it's about understanding other people and self so that you can communicate effectively. So when thinking about communicating effectively, especially during situations of change or whatever it may be, you have to think about frequency. You have to think about the sensitivity and the empathy that you employ when you're actually communicating to these different individuals. You have to think about timing. All these different things come into play when it comes to considered communication. Is the communication open or closed? Can people just come to you? Or is it one of those things where it's like you're throwing information out? Of course, we understand that there are 7 different stages of change, so to speak, or experiencing change, such as shock, denial, etc., etc. So how do we manage people? How do we take people through that journey? Because people don't like to be left in the dark. They just don't. Before we continue, I want you to reflect upon this question. How do you ensure that you are showing up authentically and that your communication is clear to the people that you work with? Let me know below. I know it sounds like a loaded question, but I really want people to engage with this video and express what does it mean to be authentic? What does it mean to have clear communication? Because we end up in situations and spaces where people feel like they're not being heard. People feel like they can't be themselves at work. So do you think it's actually possible? Leave your comments below. Just one moment before you continue the video. If you're interested in gaining more information surrounding how you can develop as a leader, how you can employ good life management, more stuff centered around portfolio careers, then you may want to sign up for my newsletter, the Mastery Leadership newsletter, where I talk about some of this stuff. I'll give you tips and tricks and hints and things around all of this stuff in order for you to be an effective leader, whether this is in your business, in your workplace, or even in your family household. Look, leadership is really important. Life management is really important, and all of us are cultivating portfolio careers. I think they said by 2025, at least 50% of people, at least in the UK, are going to have some sort of portfolio career. So if these topics really interest you, especially the leadership stuff, then make sure you sign up for my newsletter where you can get weekly information on this and just feel up to date in terms of how you can be the best leader that you can be, where I define leadership as living by example. Anyway, let's get back to the video. The 4th thing in my framework is voracious vitality. This is centered around energy, man. Energy is everything, so to speak. Energy can either be created or destroyed, as they say. It can be transferred. And so we want to transfer positive energy into our space. We want to transfer energy that gives us life. That's why I speak about vitality. We need to be lively individuals. Now, this is not just for you as the leader. This is for you as the team, so to speak. And so monkey see, monkey do. And what I mean by that is, again, my definition of leadership is living by example. And so bearing this in mind, it's understanding that you need to be able to do things in your daily routine that enable you to have that energy. This is thinking about things like, how do you prepare to go to sleep? Yeah, I mean, it's a question. When do you go to sleep? How do you sleep? What do you eat? How regularly are you drinking your water? Do you exercise regularly? Are you going for walks? Do you give yourself breaks? How are you modeling good behavior? Because if you can't model this good behavior, it's going to be very difficult for you, my friends. I'm telling you, because energy is everything. Because this is going to be used to help motivate your team. How are you motivating and inspiring your team? You know, it's important that your team has this level of, or a sense of purpose, autonomy, and a sense of meaning. This is all developed by Daniel H. Pink in his book Drive. And so if you think about this deeply, you need to have that for yourself too, because again, it leans into everything else. And so practically when we're thinking about this stuff, you know, it's about embedding a routine. It's about making sure that you're doing physical activity, making sure that your nutrition's on point, your mental health is on point. So I'll lean into some of this stuff at some point, but this is essentially what voracious vitality is. And then we have persuasive perception. Now, essentially, persuasive perception is about understanding yourself, getting insights and data from other people and things, and using that information to be more effective as a leader. So this is leaning into stuff like using 360s, using personality quizzes or surveys, so to speak. This is having conversations with your peers or mentors or leaders or direct reports or coaches or mentors. This is understanding all this stuff so you can utilize this and be more effective as a person. But in addition to that, it's also being able to manage in complex and ambiguous situations. Because the more you know about yourself, the more you can be proactive as a leader. It's leaning into your locus of control, as they speak about. So I don't want to talk about all these different words or whatever it may be, but the point being made is you need to employ good active listening. You need to be able to ask for feedback. You need to ask good questions so that you can understand how you're being viewed. And essentially, it's your personal brand. Your personal brand is essentially how you are seen. It's that simple. It's how you are seen. It's how you see yourself even. And really, that comes down to reputation. And reputation is really developed through competence, association, experience, the package that you dress yourself in. So how you sort of create this image, so to speak, that is aligned to your authentic self defines your personal brand, so to speak, or at least your perception. And so if you want to be persuasive in that way, you want to create the right perception that allows you to stand out as that leader. And so bear all of this stuff in mind when it comes to persuasive perception. Start thinking about how you can ask these questions, get this information, and get help from others to develop your personal brand. Maybe it's just about what you wear, so to speak, okay? Or, you know, how you do your videos. Hint, hint. I've changed things a little bit. And so think about all of this kind of stuff. Now, as promised, I'm going to reveal the bonus tip. And the bonus tip is all centered around proactive learning. What do I mean by this? You know, leaders who do well are those who learn extremely well. They're reading books, they're going to conferences, they've got a coach, mentor, X, Y, and Z. Now, of course, I understand you can't do this all the time, but there has to be a proactiveness to it. So you need to find a way to personally develop. You know, for some people, this may be living a more stoic lifestyle. You know, things I've done in the past where I've woken up very early, gone to the gym, done all this kind of stuff there, and really made sure that I'm living and leaning into values that I want to live by. Now, of course, how do you do this practically? Well, the first thing you can do is obviously hire a coach or mentor. Is this something that your organization offers? Is this something that you can find? Is this something you can search for? Is there somebody you know? Okay, obviously, I know I'm a coach, I'm a mentor, I can do that for you. But again, it doesn't have to be me, it can be anyone else. The benefits of having a coach is that they help raise your self-awareness and they help to boost and empower your confidence so that you have more understanding of how to maneuver. The next thing is centered around journaling, okay? Do you have a system for writing things down? How are you feeling? How did you make decisions? What happened today? What would you like to have happened? What are your goals? All of these different things. The third thing is centered around goals. Do you have clear objectives for what you're trying to achieve in your wheel of life, or what I call the pillars of mastery? Like, how are you achieving these different things? And the other thing I was going to say is centered around going on courses and programs. What do I mean by this? As a contractor / consultant, I've realized that there are a lot of leaders that don't have fundamental knowledge because a lot of them were default leaders. They were just brought into the position. And so if you're in a situation or space where you have the ability to go on an accredited program or a recognized or commercial one where you can get certain skills let's say in portfolio management, program management, agile project management, maybe it's stuff centered around business analysis or leadership and management, then you are standing out from the crowd, man, because you know things that a lot of people just don't know as leaders. So proactive learning is so important when it comes to this stuff. Now, today we've spoken about so much. We've spoken about audacious authenticity, crystal clarity, considered communication, voracious vitality, and persuasive perception. These are the 5 things, the 5 keys. I call them the 5 keys of mastery performance that will enable you to be an effective leader, like hands down. And so if this is something that you think you need to implement, start implementing some of this stuff. I think it's really important. So really think about how you can be more authentic to self, and what does that look like? What does being more clear look like? Okay, so answer all of these questions, and I'm sure this is going to help you in your journey. Now, I really appreciate you taking the time to watch this video today, or at least listen to it. And if you would like to hear or see more things centered around leadership, life management, and portfolio careers, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell. And as always, my friends, understand, reach, and expand. Peace.